Welcome back everyone. As most of you know by now, the Apple Watch Series 7 just came out, so let's go ahead and compare it against one of the cheaper Apple Watches you can still pick up brand new, which is the Apple Watch SE. Now if you want to pick up either one of these things, the links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now side by side, both of these things are a little bit different. The Apple Watch SE is starting off at $329, but you can actually pick it up for $279 for that GPS model, where the Apple Watch Series 7, the max model is $499, but the cheaper one does start off at $399. So there's a little bit of difference here. I mean, comparing, both of these models, there's over $100 difference for the base models of both of these, which is pretty crazy. Now on the outside, they are honestly more similar than not. So design-wise, they are almost the same thing, but with the Apple Watch Series 7, the display does actually curve out a little bit. It's in the same form factor, for the most part as the SE, but you are getting less bezel around that display. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. The size dimensions for the Apple Watch SE are 40mm and 44mm, where the Apple Watch Series 7 is 41mm and 45mm. So you're getting a little bit of a difference in the screen size. Personally, I don't think it's a crazy big deal. I thought it was a bigger deal. It really isn't anything super crazy. I wouldn't upgrade just because of that, but you are getting a more durable Apple Watch from the Series 7, which is great. So if you're somebody who's planning on going on tons of bike rides and you want a watch that's going to be more durable, maybe you don't even want to throw a case on it, the Apple Watch Series 7 may be the better option for you in that specific case. Now buttons wise, they are still the exact same thing. There's no difference there. There's no fingerprint sensor or anything like that added. So you have the same type of digital crown, you have the same type of power button. So there isn't really a big difference there. And on the back, there really isn't a big difference here either. They charge the same. The main difference is the Series 7 does charge faster than the Apple Watch SE. So if that is something that sounds, fun to you, you may want to go ahead and pick up something like an Apple Watch Series 7 if you're really focused in on getting something that, does charge, I think it's 40% faster or something, which is super crazy. But the Apple Watch SE still feels good. It still doesn't feel cheap. And it really does have a lot of the same capability as the Apple Watch, Series 7 for sure. Now, internally, there is a little bit of a difference for the longevity between these. So with the Apple Watch SE, it has the same, chipset inside as the Apple Watch Series 5, that S5 chip, and that came out 2 years ago. So in 2019, that's when that chipset came out. The Apple Watch Series 7 is that latest S7 chipset, so you are getting a newer chipset from that specific device. So that is a big thing to keep in mind. If you're somebody who wants to go ahead and get a watch that's going to, be a couple years newer in terms of software updates later down the road, you may want to pick up something like an Apple Watch Series 7, but the Apple Watch SE could be like a Series 3, where Apple will just keep supporting that, Apple Watch until it pretty much is faulty and it breaks. That's kind of what Apple's doing with the Series 3. So we may see the same thing here. We're not 100% too sure, but that may end up being the case later down the road. So in terms of longevity, the Series 7 is the better way to go, but the SE is still a very good, watch for sure. Now another thing to keep in mind is a little bit of a difference between, the displays. So like I said, the Series 7 does have that curved display, but it also has an always on display as well, which is really awesome. Now they state that there's, nearly 20% more screen area than the Apple Watch SE. I really don't think it's a crazy big deal like I mentioned, but you do have that always on display, which is really cool. The Apple Watch SE doesn't support it. The Series 5 supported it, which is weird because they unsupported it with the next one. So that didn't really make too much sense to me, but you do have it on the Series 7. So if that's something that sounds really cool to you, then obviously the Series 7 is a better way to go, but you are spending a little bit more money on that, which is a big thing to keep in mind. Now, some other features that are actually missing for the SE is the blood oxygen levels. So you can't actually, utilize that specific feature that the Series 6 and the Series 7 had. The SE doesn't have it. And there's also no ECG on the Apple Watch SE either. So if those two things are very important to you, then you should probably go and, go up to an Apple Watch Series 7 or at least an Apple Watch Series 6, because I think the Apple Watch Series 6 also supports those things too. But they both support things like the high and low heart rate, notifications, irregular heart rhythm notifications. You can still do pretty much the same type of basic stuff, messaging, calling, all that good stuff. It's supported on both, so you're really not seeing a big difference there. Now, battery life wise, interestingly enough, Apple actually indicates that the battery life on all their watches from the Series 3 to the Series 7 offer up to 18 hours of battery life. So I don't know why that's the case. I've gotten really good battery life from my SE. I hope the Series 7 is more than that, but based on their website, it does say it's only up to 18 hours, which is very strange to me. Now, ending it off with the performance, honestly, there's probably not going to be that big of a difference in the performance sector. And I think that's totally okay when you have a device like an Apple Watch SE. It's still very fast. There's very few differences between the SE and the Series 6. I understand it's already like a 2-year-old chipset, but even when I pick up my Apple Watch Series 4 that I use, there's really not that big of a difference. It's still a very fast performing device. So what I will tell you is that, of course, if you want the fastest performing, Apple Watch, the Apple Watch Series 7 is the better way to go. It's going to get you from point A to point B a lot faster. It's going to be blazing fast, and anything I've done with it so far, I've already made like 6 videos on it. There's pretty much nothing to complain about. It's a pretty fast performing Apple Watch. But the thing is that the Apple Watch SE, if you're not comparing them side by side, you're really not going to notice that big of a difference. It just really isn't that big of a deal. And I think that is one of the biggest things to keep in mind. When you have an Apple Watch SE, you're going to be pretty much good for a while. That Apple Watch isn't going anywhere. So, when it comes down to it, I would probably recommend the Apple Watch Series 7 to more people if you're wanting to get a more heavy performing device, something that you can click on something, and if you really are going to be using a ton of applications on your Apple Watch, well then the Series 7 is probably the better way to go. But what I will tell you is that the Apple Watch SE's performance is still great. I've had very few complaints about it, and I think if you're trying to go from one device to the other and you're really not using your Apple Watch too much, I think the SE is perfect. So to kind of sum up this video, I'm going to be honest. I think if you have an Apple Watch SE, I would recommend keeping it. And in some ways, I do think the Apple Watch SE is a better value per dollar than the Series 7. I think the Series 7 is perfect. I think it's great. I think it has a better looking display. But a big thing to keep in mind is that the Series 8, that next Apple Watch, may end up being that big upgrade that we want. So if that ends up being the case, then you may want to go ahead and pick up an Apple Watch, SE for now, and then upgrade to a Series 8 maybe next year when that comes out. But as of right now, I think the SE is a great Apple Watch for the price tag. Again, it's not perfect. The Series 7 is better, but the SE, if you have it, I would recommend keeping it. Honestly, if you have an Apple Watch Series 4, I would probably recommend keeping it too. But with the Apple Watch Series 7, I think this is the Apple Watch that if you want to get an Apple Watch now and you don't want to think about anything else for the next 5 years, then this is probably the watch for you. It's going to be extremely good at performance. It's going to have all the features that you want. The battery life is probably going to be great. It has a newer looking display, which is awesome. So I definitely do think that's the better way to go, but you can't really go wrong with an SE either. After using the SE for a while, I think this is a great Apple Watch. Like I mentioned, I think the Series 7 is better, but you can't go wrong with the SE either. But for the price tag with the Series 7, it is a little bit of a stretch because it is a little bit more expensive, but the choice is yours. I would probably recommend picking up a Series 7 over an SE, but the SE is a better value per dollar. So in terms of that covers it up there. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.